Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to Let's Go Racing with David Starr. Tyler Jones here with you. So glad to have you with us. It is episode number 95 as we kick off the new year, joined by NASCAR driver Ryan Vargas. Plenty to discuss with Ryan as we'll discuss his career so far and his future plans and everything when he joins us coming up in just a little while from right now. Plus, we will have our news and notes segment with the latest headlines from around the sport, as well as our Ask David segment coming up at the end of the show. As always, we're presented by TicketSmarter. They came aboard as the primary sponsor this year in David's 08 Ford Mustang. I want to tell you a little bit more about what they do. TicketSmarter's national ticket resale marketplace. Tickets over 125,000 live events, including NASCAR and other forms of motorsports. Fans get tickets to every NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Camping World Truck Race throughout the season. For the best deals on tickets, visit TicketSmarter.com. Get your tickets today. That's TicketSmarter.com. David Starr joins us right now. David, fresh off the holidays, we took a couple weeks off to kind of, enjoy the time with our families, but nonetheless, we are back and kicking off a new year on the show. Happy New Year to you. How we doing?
Man, Happy New Year to you guys. And Dominic, you as well. Just, man, crazy, man. It's hard to keep up with stuff. So much stuff going on. You just got to kind of slow down and make a list of priorities, and but man, Christmas was wonderful. And I know you guys had a great Christmas, and New Year came, and here we are in 2023, and man, a lot of exciting stuff going on. And man, it's just it's cool that we still have our podcast going. I missed you guys at Christmas time, and man, it's great to be back on here with you.
Yeah, no doubt. And David, this time of year for you, it's crunch time. We're 6 weeks away from the Daytona 500 here, and we don't have anything announced today, but we're very close to that point.
Yeah, I've just been busy back and forth to Charlotte, and just just taking care of my racing stuff, and then my racing school. We got a lot of stuff going on at Texas Motor Speedway with my racing school, and just like I said, it's just hard to kind of balance it all out. And then we got two little guys, my two little boys, and a wife, and Dominic got a new wife and a young baby. It's just man, it's great times. It's even though we're busy and it's somewhat stressful, it's a great stressful, it's you're blessed to be stressed and have so much stuff going on, but man, it's exciting time. NASCAR, the kickoff the season at Daytona Speedway 2023 is coming. And man, everybody's excited. I know the fans are, a lot of the different racing teams and the drivers, and man, it's just cool.
Yeah, it is. Dominic Aragon from the RacingExperts.com is here with us as well. And Dom, I know you got a lot of good stuff going for you. Holidays just happen, with your new family and everything. But I'm sure you're just on the struggle bus right now after your Packers got eliminated from didn't even get to the playoffs. Didn't even make it in.
Hey, but you know what? They gave me hope. The Packers gave me hope. They had a good winning streak through December, and usually playoff implications, Aaron Rodgers and pressure go hand in hand. That didn't happen on Sunday, but I can go to bed at night knowing that my Packers this year, no matter what the Dallas Cowboys do, David's team, my Packers beat the Cowboys back in week 7 or week 8, Tyler. So I have that on David.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
And now they got Tom Brady coming up.
Yeah, they got a big challenge ahead of them. And man, we're talking about the NFL here. It's just, after this past weekend, anything's possible. Even the best of the best can have a bad game, and next thing you know, they're out. But man, the Green Bay Packers, Aaron Rodgers, man, I'm just a big fan of Aaron Rodgers, and I hope we didn't see his last game. I hope he decides to come back. I know there's big decisions there to make, but man, he's fun to watch, and man, he's one of the best, and I hope he comes back and can retire on his terms while he's winning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I think he still has a lot more gas in the tank per se, but anyway, it's just it's cool what's going on in the NFL, and pretty awesome. And then we had our Super Bowl for the national championship last night, and man, TCU didn't fare too well.
Oh, they looked awful.
But anyway,
bad.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, great story for TCU. I want to ask you one more thing before we officially bring in Ryan here on the football front. Obviously, the whole, not just football world or sports world, but the world kind of just stopped with that DeMar Hamlin injury that occurred on Monday Night Football. And that got me curious, just from your perspective, David, So many times we're watching a NASCAR race, we see guys take some hard hits and they walk away. Or this past year, we saw a couple of guys that had concussions and missed a couple of races here. That was kind of a moment where we all just kind of sit back and, none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. I was so thankful that DeMar's made this great recovery and that he's okay here. It reminded me, of some of the bad things we've seen in racing over the years. I mean, Ryan Newman, that was a scary situation to him, Daytona, a couple of years ago.
Man, that was, and seeing DeMar and watching that play out live on television, man, it just, in unfortunate circumstances, it's cool to see, warriors on the racetrack or warriors on the football field. But, when you have a fella, a brother, a teammate, when somebody is in serious condition at that moment, and to see everybody come together and get down on their knees and pray to God, it's just, man, the humanity part, what I mean? We're all humans, we're people, we're a brother, we have a mom and dad, we're gonna have a sister, we're a husband. It was very touching and moving, and everybody was praying, and man, I just thank God that he's recovered. And and it looks like he's going to be fine. But man, we didn't know that at the time. And Ryan will be with us here in just a moment. And myself and just all the other people that race. I don't care if you race NASCAR or race for a living, just a race car driver in general, whatever type of racing you're involved in. Man, we do something that's dangerous, the risk is always there. And, you have to talk to your parents and my wife, and I'm sure other race car drivers, families, wives, parents, we know the risk involved, and just watching what happened last Monday night, anything's possible. But it was just, it's cool that the prayers are working and how it turned out. And man, we lived it. We all lived it with Ryan Newman. You think back just a couple of years ago, what we saw at Daytona, man, I just froze you, and all you could do is just get down on your knees and pray. And man, it turned out great. But I don't know. I just, it's cool that we're all warriors, we're fighters. We have a job to do. We're paid to go out there and compete. And but man, when things like that happens to fellow competitors, other teams, it's cool that it's something bigger than a race. It's something bigger than a football game. It's life, man.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I don't know. I'm just so thankful that it turned out the way it did.
Yeah, I agreed. Dom, our next guest that joins us is Ryan Vargas, one of the younger names in NASCAR. Tell us about Ryan, his very quick rise to the NASCAR here.
We'll get to that in a second. Before we do, just a reminder that Let's Go Racing has partnered with OLIPOP beverages. OLIPOP is a new kind of soda. It's loaded with prebiotics, botanicals, and plant fiber. You can use the code DAVIDSTARR or Let's Go 15 for 15% off at your order at drinkolipop.com. It's OLIPOP, a new kind of soda. Ryan Vargas, our guest this week on the Let's Go Racing podcast. We reached out to Ryan. He said he'd come on and talk some racing, and he hails from California, was born in 2000, made his NASCAR Xfinity Series debut in 2019, and has since been a staple in the Xfinity Series, racing a majority of the schedule about 2020 on, has placed in the top 10 on several occasions. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us and being our first guest of the 2023 racing season here on our show.
And no, thank you guys. Thank you guys for having me. First show of the year. That's definitely a bar I got to set. But no, happy to be here.
Oh, absolutely. And in fact, you and David have a little bit of history, right? I don't know if it was Atlanta or Daytona, but you guys were kind of drafting buddies at one of the races previously.
It was Daytona. I think it was Daytona. Daytona, we were running real well together. I think, and also Atlanta. I think both the speedways, like in the summer months, we were working really well together. I think that was like, I just kind of knew if I dropped back, I was going to get caught by David, or if David dropped back, I was going to catch him. So it worked out perfect. It's nice to have to work around. That's one of the nice things about kind of the garage area is you kind of know the teams you're in your range, like, driving, the team that I was with this past year, JD, we were racing with the BJ guys, the Green Light guys, a lot of the sponsors, the Alpha Prime guys. So it's kind of funny seeing like which teams work together and which don't.
Absolutely. Well, Ryan, it's always been fun to race with you, man, since you showed up in NASCAR, and you're a tough competitor. I've always been, have a lot of respect for your ability as a race car driver, and just, the enthusiasm you bring to the sport. So it's kind of contagious, to watch you walk around. You're happy, and man, you've had some great partners over the years, and not only do you have to be a great race car driver when you're racing in NASCAR, you got to be a great spokesperson for them. And man, you just all aspects of our sport, you have done a tremendous job. And that being said, I just want to ask a question. I hadn't known you for that long. I've just known you when you showed up in the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and you've done a hell of a job. But take us back, man. Was your dad a race car driver? How did that passion hit you? Did you race go-karts? Share with the fans, share with us, the Ryan Vargas story.
Yeah. So to start it off, none of my family actually raced. None of my family really had any interest. My dad watched NASCAR on the weekends, and I remember when I was 8, 9 years old, I used to pick on him because he was watching a sport where guys turned left all day. I kid you not. That's what I used to do. Now you flash forward to now, and it's just kind of really funny. But it took me sitting down with my dad and actually watching the races. And then I really just started kind of growing a love for it, kind of learning about the different storylines, the comers and goers, who would win, the guys who were winning, the underdogs, all that stuff. And then I remember, and what really started it off was when I was really young. I loved Speed Channel. I'd wake up at 5 a.m. to watch, whatever highlights there were, whether it was off-road trucks, monster trucks, NASCAR, IMSA. That was what I did. And I remember my dad took me to Irwindale Speedway back in 2010. I was 9 years old at the time, and we went there and saw one of the recess aids from my elementary school. And I'm like, what the heck? Why are you here? You exist outside of school? I realized, she tells me, she's like, yeah, my son races. We're actually selling our car, and it's a little Bandolero race car. And for those who don't know, Bandolero race cars are like third scale stock cars that kids 8 and up can drive. And that was, to me was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want to do, because I did all the other sports. I did baseball, basketball, football, soccer, you name it. I played it. And I played the same position in all of them, which I mean, like, you guys probably didn't know this. There is a position that is in all of them, and that is bench. That was horrible. I hated it.
What position is that?
Yeah. I suck at sports. I am horrible. And honestly, it bores me to death. Like, you guys were talking football, and I can't even tell you which league, whatever it was. But I just knew I liked racing. And so we got it before we bought the car. We did a test. I hit the wall the first lap, and we fixed the car, and we went back out. And I remember the drive home, my dad, like I said, I was 10 years old, turning 11 at the time. And, so this is 2011. And my dad, we're driving home from Orange Shore Speedway, which is a fantastic short track, by the way. Driving home, about a 40-minute drive, my dad tells me, he says, you have this entire drive to let me know what you want to do. We could either race, but if we do this, we're going to make you a champion. Or we don't race, we go to K1, have some fun on the weekends, but you focus on doing school and all that. It took about 5 minutes, and I said I wanted to race. And since then, it was just kind of onward and upward. Ran Bandoleros for 3 years, won the state championship 3 years in a row, tied for the national title in 2014. Moved up to street stocks when I was 14 years old, then got an opportunity of a lifetime to run late models for Dave Eshelman. He unfortunately passed this most recent year when I was 15, and then just continued moving up the ranks and just meeting the right people at the right time. I got my first super late model ride because Dave was there when I won my first ever street stock race. Hadn't won a street stock race until the day he was there, and it opened up a door for me to race super late models. So just continue moving up the ladder, and here we are today.
Man, what a story! It's just it's a great story, because other race car drivers, there's a lot of Ryan Vargases and across the country, that have dreams and aspirations of making it to NASCAR. As you know, and we all know, it's not a easy process. It's man, you got to have a a lot of want to and man, a big desire, and you know, the sacrifices that it takes. We could talk about the sacrifices. I know you could write your own book up until this point because it's not easy. And but anything's possible, man. And if I can do it and you can do it, others can do it. You know what I mean? But it's just I love hearing the story about you and your dad, and you know, you hear those stories and about a bandolero, and then next thing you know, you're standing on pit road at Darlington doing the national anthem, fixing to get in the NASCAR Xfinity Series and go race your tail off against Dale Earnhardt Jr. and all the other greats out there. You know, it's pretty awesome, man. What a great story.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to really think about it and put it all in perspective a lot of the time, because I remember my first Xfinity race, and the best thing that I remember about that was just how nervous I was, but how it made me want to do better. Like, first ever Xfinity race, I was racing against, the Justin Allgaiers. I believe you were in the race. I mean, it was like I was racing against guys that I watched on TV, my whole life, and I was, just jumping into this Xfinity car. And this was after I had lost my K&N ride because they downsized from downsized from a 3-car to a 2-car. So in my mind at 18 years old, I thought I was washed up and done. And this Xfinity race was my one shot. It was my one opportunity to go out and legitimately prove that I can at least hold my own. And if I didn't do that, I was done. So I remember that feeling of strapping in and going out and racing, running 250 laps around Iowa Speedway, falling out of the seat with 10 to go, and just like realizing how crazy this is. And we wound up 17th that day. We ran top 15. And I just remember all the crew guys who came up to me after the race, because it was a good day. I mean, running top 15 for a team like us, that was a good day. And it was amazing. A lot of people came up to me after the race. I mean, had Chris Wright from Colleague, a bunch of different drivers, they all came over and shook my hand. And that was a big wake up moment for me, for sure.
Now look at
for you. I mean, was it that moment, or was there even like a moment in time before that or after that maybe you first realized, wow, I can make a career at this, or I have a legit shot at being a race car driver for a living?
I think the biggest thing was I got done with that Xfinity race, and I had a lot of people come up to me after that race, and they said, what you did today was you silenced what you thought of yourself. You showed that you can hold your own. You showed that you can do this, and you showed that you definitely have a place, because from the entire off season of 2018 to the beginning of 2019, I was not racing. I was done. And, I'd gotten a late model opportunity to go do some late model stuff. And that opened the door for me to kind of keep fresh, keep in the seat, but I knew I needed to do a stock car race. And the opportunity arose for me to go do that start. And, just realizing the people I had around me after that was a big thing for me. And it showed to me that I definitely can do it. And so that since then, I've been chasing that same feeling since then.
That's incredible. That's awesome. So Ryan, of the last few years, what's been the best part about just strapping up and getting in the race car and competing and everything? What's the thrill for you? What do you enjoy most of what's gone on so far in your young career?
Well, I mean, a lot of it kind of comes down to living a dream. My dream is to drive race cars. My dream is to go fast. My dream is all this stuff. I can go on and say that same thing. I've met some fantastic people. I've met a lot of childhood heroes of mine, which is insane. Like it's funny. I kind of had like an oh crap moment this year when I was running at Martinsville, battling for a position with Dale Earnhardt Jr. And it's like, oh, that's, neat. Like I look at Dude Jr. I talked to Dale Jr. like, just personally, like we're cool. But like, I remember just like getting passed by him, and I'm like, that's interesting. And then, but I would say the biggest thing that I love about it is just when I'm out there racing, no matter what track it is, I'm not thinking about what I got going on in life. I'm just driving, and that is all I'm doing. I am solely focused on the task at hand and going out there and getting the best result I possibly can. And whether that best result be 28th or 8th, I'm out there trying to achieve that result. And that's been something that I've loved. I love that feeling of just being alone in that race car going an obnoxious amount of speed.
You know, Ryan, one of the things I've always been impressed by you is, you know, and a lot of people know it and a lot of people don't, is, you know, and, you know, not only are you a great race car driver, but you're a good you're a good spokesperson for all the different sponsors you've had. And, you know, it's a challenge in our sport to have partners, and, you know, without partners, none of us can race, you know. The ones that can race without partners, you know, God bless them, good for them. But most of us, we have to have sponsors and partners, and that's what really puts us in a race car and keeps us racing. And man, you've had some great companies over the year, and you really do a great job at the racetrack, away from the racetrack. I see you on social media doing all kinds of cool stuff, and I don't know, my hat's off to you, because you know, you don't have anybody really that's out there doing that for you. You do it yourself. And I think it says a whole lot about the desire you have.
I mean, having TikTok on the car, that was
Dude,
a big deal.
That was amazing.
Yeah. No, I
How
mean,
did
and
that come
that's
together?
that whole thing came together through a tweet. My friend Ryan Pistano, who's actually the graphic designer over at Alpha Prime Racing now, but I told him one day, kind of in passing, how much I love TikTok, and he put it on there, and sure enough, it got a lot of shares, got a lot of retweets and likes, and ended up getting to the people at TikTok. They saw it, they were like, this was 2020, so 80-90% of every corporation's marketing plans got thrown out the window, you know what I mean? So they were like, well, we kind of have what we have, let's go do this. And that right there set the tone for basically the way I attack marketing nowadays, because, you know, at the time I think I only had 6 Xfinity starts when TikTok sponsored me. So here I am, relatively little known race car driver. Like, yeah, I had a following on social media, and that's fantastic. But, you know, in terms of the grand scheme of things, not many people knew who Ryan Vargas was. And TikTok had no reason to sponsor me, plain and simple. I mean, yeah, I was one of the few NASCAR drivers on there, which was, I guess, is the big reason there. But I mean, for a massive corporation, a massive entity like TikTok to trust me at 19 years old with their brand, with their imaging, with their likeness, I think that set the tone for what I do. And, you know, I've had to refine what I do. I've had to change up, you know, my strategies and stuff like that. But as you mentioned, like, it's all about making sure that you deliver for these partners, because I mean, and just like David also mentioned, you know, they're the reason you're in a race car, right? I mean, Critical Path Security, they're on my hat right now. They're the reason I'm in a race car. I mean, these companies that sponsor me directly impact my career, my livelihood. And so I try and develop a good relationship with the people that I work with, because to me, it's, when you work with me, it's about building that relationship. It's about growing, and it's about accomplishing the goals that they have. That's the number one thing, because we all remember the NASCAR boom period, but now we're past that boom period. Now it's about, how do we activate? How do we actually deliver beyond just putting a sticker on a race car? Because as David knows, that's 10% of it. I wouldn't even say if that's 10% of it, but I mean, it's all about the business plan. And that's been a very challenging but fun thing for me to learn as time has gone on. And it's been very useful, especially moving forward into my later years as I move forward in the sport.
David, this guy here's only 22 years old. He's got a lot figured out.
Yeah, he's got a lot figured out. I love it. I wish I'd have had that all this figured out at 22, but I wasn't even close, you know. And just you know, listening to you talk, Ryan, you do bring a lot of value to your partners, and it is about relationships, and it's much bigger. You know, it's a lot of these partners that we have, they become family.
Mm-hmm.
You become family because, number one, because of the person you are, because, man, you're a hard worker, you're driven, you're honest, integrity about you, just, and I would just say that not only you're a champion on the racetrack, but you're a champion off the racetrack. And a lot of these companies, they want a spokesperson that, man, when things are tough and you're not winning races and it's a challenge and things happen, that you still carry yourself like a champion, and you have all those qualities. And obviously with all the sponsors you've had and have had, they see that in you, and for people like all of us, Tyler, Dominic, and myself, we can appreciate hard work, and it wasn't like you came from a family that's very wealthy. I mean, it'd been great if all of us had wealthy families that we came from, but the reality of it is, we're just all hardworking people, and we don't have extra millions of dollars. So, we have to go out there and represent our brand ourselves, and then bring them to the racetrack. And like you said, 10% of it just decals on racetrack on the race car, but it's just so much more to it than that. And you do give a return to your sponsors, or they wouldn't be with you as long as they have been. But I don't think people realize the amount of effort and what it takes to have great partners like that, and the stress involved, and commitment. It's like, man, it's like we're making a paycheck when we're driving a race car, but when we're not driving a race car and we're trying out there flying here, going here, trying to take care of the sponsors we have and getting new ones, it's a big undertaking, and it's not for everybody, so not only have you lived out your dream, you've done a hell of a job. You do a great job. You're a great race car driver, and I respect the heck out of you, because nobody ever gave you anything. Your dad gave you that your dad and your mom and dad gave you a lot, but man, you've had to go out there and make it happen, and you've done a great job, man. So congratulations to you.
No, I appreciate that. It's all about just digging deep. I mean, like you mentioned, my mom's a kid. My mom's a first grade teacher. My dad's a construction worker. I was like, it's so unorthodox the way I've made it here, but I think that's what's also pushed me to be better. That's also what's pushed me to just want it more, because to me, I look at there's a couple times where I'm sitting on the driver intro stage. I'll actually put it out here. I mean, Daytona this year, we qualified seventh. And
Amazing.
I remember lining up in front of Ty Gibbs, lining up around, all the Gibbs drivers, the junior motorsports guys, all these other guys, in the mid pack and, further back, and just seeing my name on the screen at Daytona, seeing my car parked between Joe Gibbs racing cars, seeing all these things at Daytona, mind you. First of all, let's just talk about how freaking cool that is. That's one of the things that I've made sure to myself that I don't lose, is just how cool I think this is. We all forget that sometimes. Sometimes when I'm in the middle of 3 wide at Daytona, I know this sounds goofy, but I'll be like, man, if I just twitch the wheel a little bit, I could cause real problems. I'm like, man, I can make every NASCAR crash compilation on YouTube right now. But it's just crazy. And that's the biggest thing to me, is I chase something that I think is so cool, and it's a dream of mine. And to me, I don't have any plans on stopping for another 10, 15 years.
Well, man, that's great news, man. You're good at it. And, man, you're a great young man. And, I mean, just, like I said, all your partners, the racing teams you're involved with, you bring a lot of value to all of it, what I mean? So we just hope nothing but the best for you in the future,
So let me ask you this, Ryan, before we kind of move on here. We're not going to get into your racing plans for this year yet. You got that to announce here soon. So everybody keep tabs on that. Ryan will let you guys know. But as you look towards the future, I know you said you want to keep going, 10, 15 years, whatever it may be. What are some of the things individually you want to accomplish or be a part of in this sport or in motorsports in general? What are the things that you want to do in your career, Ryan?
I just want that whenever I quit racing, whenever I stop racing, that people remember that I have had some impact on the industry or on the sport, and that people remember the good things. That's the biggest thing. If I were to, that's 110% my goal. I could never win a championship, but as long as I make an impact in a positive way, on the industry and on the sport of NASCAR, then I consider that a win. And that's the dream. I want to drive race cars for as long as I physically can. I want to be in front of a camera as much as possible. I want to talk about race cars as much as possible. And I want to be in the garage area for as long as I can, because this is what I want to do. Like racing, it's hilarious. Like my girlfriend was getting mad at me because she was like, "What do you want for Christmas?" And I'm like, "Money, so I could drive race cars." Because it's all I do. It's all I do. It's all I think about. I don't have hobbies outside of racing, really, which I should. I started gaming more, as you can see. I'm on my racing rig, but it's racing. So I don't even know if that's much of a hobby outside of racing, but
It counts.
it's just what I love to do, and that's just my goal in life, is to not only have an impact, but also just keep being happy.
That's right. And as a driver, right, you hope you continue to race as long as you can. But when that day does come where that steering wheel gets hung up, that fire suit gets hung up for the final time, and you still want to have that involvement in the sport, could we see Ryan Vargas as potentially a team owner or a driver coach or working as a driver analyst for a network?
I've explored the possibility of team ownership a couple times, like just kind of learned a little bit more about the market and what goes into it. Kind of obviously you have to look at expenses, you have to look at income, as well as the stuff that goes out, which the stuff that goes out is definitely a lot. So it's a lot about figuring out where that place goes. But really for me, I want to be in the broadcast booth. I want to be talking about race cars. I want to talk about, oh my gosh, this car just spun at 180 miles an hour. Let's talk about how crazy it is. Or, this is the storyline, or like talk about analytics, do all this stuff. Like, I just want to be like, I would love to be in the media, like later on, in my career. I mean, I'm trying to do it right now. I have a couple opportunities where I'm really looking into, where I'm in front of a camera. And that's just something for me that where I don't want to just be a driver. I want to be, the marketer. I want to be in front of a camera. I want to work on the cars. I want to learn all of what I can, so that when I do have opportunities, whether it's behind the wheel or behind a microphone, I know what I'm talking about.
That's awesome. That's very, very cool. Well, I mean, if you want to be calling races, I mean, all you got to be able to do is be able to yell 3 wide,
Yeah, exactly.
on TV from time to time, But,
yeah.
Nonetheless, that's awesome. Ryan, we're glad to have you here. If you would, we'll have you stick around here for, we got a couple more segments to get to. Our news and notes segment is next. Today's show is presented by TicketSmarter, the official ticket resale marketplace of Worldwide Technology Raceway, where David won in 2004. Fans can also get tickets to any type of event, including sports, concerts, and theater productions. TicketSmarter is committed to helping those in need by donating $1 from every transaction to various charity organizations. Head over to TicketSmarter.com and find tickets for upcoming events. That's TicketSmarter.com to find tickets today. Dom, time for our news and notes, the latest headlines in the NASCAR world. A lot going on. Friend of the show, Natalie Decker, is now engaged. I hear the Chili Bowl is just getting ready to start. I mean, where do we begin, though?
Let's begin with NASCAR's most popular driver announcing his return to the driver's seat in his annual Xfinity Series start. Dale Earnhardt Jr. announced on Tuesday, January 10th, that he will be fielding the number 88 Hellman's car at Bristol Motor Speedway in September, or Unilever brand car, rather. But Dale Earnhardt Jr. making his annual one-off start. That's going to come at Bristol, a track where he has won at in 2004. He swept the Xfinity and Cup Series races there. And he's had great success doing these one-offs. He builds a lot of fandom around it. A lot of people are really excited. And now we have 9 months to look forward to Dale Earnhardt Jr. back behind the wheel in the Xfinity Series.
Ryan, we'll start with you. What do you think about Dale Jr. racing at Bristol?
Man, I mean, anytime June Thug enters a race, it's always a good time. I mean, it's and that shows the the strength of the Xfinity Series as well. You have a team owner like Dale Earnhardt Jr. that not only is in the sport as a team owner, but also wants to compete in it actively. And I think that's a big deal. I mean, he brings in big sponsors like Unilever and Bass Pro. So having guys like him to race against, I think helps validate the stuff that David and I sell. And I think that's a great thing for not just for what he's got going on, but for everybody around it.
What was your reaction, David? Dale Jr., Bristol goes hand in hand.
Man, I love it. Just kind of what Ryan Vargas was talking about. It just, when you got Dale Jr. somewhat coming out of retirement, running a NASCAR Xfinity Series race, he could do a cup race, but he does the Xfinity Series, and the media and the exposure that he brings to the track, and the extra airtime you see, it's awesome. It's great for us because we get a shot to beat him and to race with him, and he's right there with all of us. And when Dale Jr. races, we get more people watching our races.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I just think there's a positive on every level having Dale Jr. race a NASCAR Xfinity Series race, and it's just awesome. And he brings so much to our sport, and it's cool to be in the same race that Dale Jr. is. Listen to Ryan Vargas talk earlier about passing Dale Earnhardt Jr. at Martinsville. That's a big deal, you know what I mean? And he's got, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. He's a winner, a former Cup winner, and man, he just you think about NASCAR racing, you think about Earnhardt, Petty's, and have him in an Xfinity Series race with us again to compete against him. It's just everything's a positive about it, and it helps all of us. I think it's wonderful.
Dom, if it wasn't going to be Daytona or Talladega, Bristol's the perfect place, I think, for this.
Bristol's the perfect place. He coined the term, it's Bristol, baby. And hey, he gets to come back and try to win a second Xfinity Bristol race in September. It's going to be a good race, and look forward to seeing how he goes up against these two.
Yeah, for sure. What else we got, Dom?
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we were talking before we took our little 2-week break about NASCAR racing in January. So that got me curious. How much NASCAR racing has been done in the month of January? So we did some research here on the show, and across all 3 NASCAR top touring series, David, Tyler, Ryan, in the 75-year history now of the Cup Series, only 20 times has there been a Cup race held in the month of January. And the last time that happened, you have to go all the way back to 1981. There were a lot of NASCAR races held at Riverside International Raceway, the old road course in Southern California. That was typically held as the first race of the year for quite some time. But the Xfinity Series has never raced in January, and the Truck Series, come to find out, has raced twice in the month of January, both times at Walt Disney Speedway in Orlando. That's no longer a track as well. And I believe, David, you had attempted to qualify for one of those races in the mid-90s. So maybe a little bit of history there too. You can tell us what it was like to be at a NASCAR racetrack in January.
Well, I mean, just, being a part of the sport for 25 years now, not racing in January, I think we're all okay with that. You gotta have, when our season's over with at Phoenix in November, late October, there's a lot of things that happens, and your team, your organization, the men and women that put these race cars together, the logistics, and just, it's amazing. It's amazing all the people it takes and how it all works, and most of these men and women have, their mothers, their fathers, they have children, and it just, you want them to spend more time with their families because, our sport's tough. We're always on the road. We're always on the go. So, those 3 months we have off, man, it's we need it, lots of rebuildings of our race cars and reorganizing stuff, and new sponsors, new teams. There's a lot going on, so I'm glad we kind of have the time off we do. But I do remember, racing in January at the racetrack there in Walt Disney World, and that was pretty awesome. I think it might have been 1997, 1998, and we were listening to Ryan talk about his first Xfinity race. Well, that was my first truck race, and looking back on it, not to get involved with all that, but looking back on the Truck Series back in 1997, 1998, we went to Orlando Speedway. I don't remember what they call it. What'd they call it, Dominic?
Yeah, it was Walt Disney World Speedway. And yeah, those races were held in January.
Yeah, Walt Disney World Speedway. It was cool, but man, if I remember right, there were 80 something trucks there that day, and we all qualified. And if you didn't qualify in the top 30, then, the 50 other trucks, we ran like a B feature, last chance race And man, I missed it by one spot. It's interesting because, and this is how I knew that I belonged. I've been watching television like Ryan Vargas, been watching NASCAR on TV for a long, long time. And there was the late, great Bobby Hamilton, man. I seen him win a lot of races on television. And man, we traded paint. There were sparks flying, and he barely beat me to the start finish line. And I missed the show by one truck. But when the race was over with, I said, man, I almost beat my hero, Bobby Hamilton. And I said, man, I can do this. You know what I mean? And even though we didn't make the race, we ran hard together. And when the race was over, Bobby came over and he said, dude, it was awesome racing with you. You raced me hard and I got you at the end. It was kind of a cool thing, but that was neat. I don't even remember that we raced in January. It's interesting information, but as far as I'm concerned, I know Ryan will back me up on this. Kicking off our season at the Daytona International Speedway for Speed Weeks is, can't think of a better place to do it. But now I'm remembering, now that we're talking about it, the NASCAR Camping or the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. I can't keep up with the title anymore, but back then we didn't start our season at Daytona. The trucks didn't race at Daytona. It wasn't until, you're the historian, Dominic. It wasn't until 2004, 5, 6 that the Truck Series finally made its first debut at Daytona National Speedway. It was the coolest thing ever.
2000, and that was the race Mike Wallace won, but it was overshadowed with Jeff Bodine going into the catch fence and tumbling and ultimately surviving the crash and being okay, but he had the recovery in the hospital, and that was the first time Daytona and the Truck Series meshed.
Absolutely, man. Wow, some cool history there.
So Ryan, your perspective, the off season, are you enjoying things, or would you like to have some January races going on?
I mean, I'm okay with not racing right now, man. I am loving the sleep I'm getting. I can tell you that. Everybody's been asking me, man, what are you gonna do the off season? Are you gonna go travel? Are you gonna do anything? I'm like, no, I'm gonna sleep. That's what I'm gonna do, man. I love sleep. I love sleeping and eating. I'm like probably the anti-hero in terms of oh yeah, fitness. Oh yeah, I love bicycling. It's like, no, I want to sleep, and I would love a cheeseburger. But yeah, no, I'm enjoying the off season. And it's just crazy to think about all this time, and it's like, man, I cannot believe they used to race in January. That's wild.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Dominic, I'd say this, the NASCAR Euro Series was going to have their ice racing event in Finland, but that got canceled due to the supply chain issues. We know David's going to be doing that NASCAR and ice event here in Wisconsin within the next couple of weeks. That's an exhibition event, not officially affiliated with NASCAR, but the rumblings of the RTA doing some off-season events. Something just tells me that we're on track here to see some type of exhibitions or some off-season events here in the very near future. We won't have this kind of dead period that we have much longer, I would think.
Well, and I think even to expand on that too, and granted, these races do happen during the grind of the NASCAR season, but it piques my interest too when you hear of SRX and Ray Evernham and Tony Stewart teaming up, or you hear about the Cars Tour and recently with Kevin Harvick and Jeff Burton, Dale Earnhardt Jr. all coming together. I believe Jeff Hammond involved with it on purchasing it and wanting to keep seeing it going, where you're seeing racers and, like you said, the RTA kind of branching out and doing things separate from NASCAR.
Yeah. And now that we're talking about it, there's an awesome, the Daytona 500 for super late models and short track racing there in Pensacola, Florida. They call that the Snowball Derby. I've never been and ever ran that race just because, once we get done with our NASCAR season, at the beginning of November, sometimes the middle of November, it's such a grind. We race so much and travel so much in our commitments that, for me, it was like when we get back from, our championship weekend to crown the champions, the last race of the year, it's just like, it's time to kind of balance everything out, spend some time being a dad, spend some time being a husband, and catch up on some honeydews. And and stuff like that. And the snowball derby always fell before Christmas, you know, and it's an awesome super late model. I mean, the best of the best from all over the United States, they come to Pensacola, Florida, and it's amazing. I keep up with it, but I've never been to it just because, you know, the grind of our schedule and everything, you know. But there is, you know, not saying there's not a NASCAR sanctioned race, but there's a lot of racing going on in December and January. But it's not NASCAR sanctioned. But you'll find, you know, this weekend right now, the Chili Bowl there in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's a huge event. You know, it's been happening for years. So there is racing going on in December and January. It's just not NASCAR sanctioned.
Right. That leads us into our next topic, Dom, the Chili Bowl in my hometown.
In your hometown, in your backyard, the Chili Bowl, man, really cool event. You're going to have that indoors in Tulsa, and that's going to cap off this upcoming weekend, January 14th, with the A-Main. But some NASCAR connections that will be running out there include Chase Briscoe. He'll be competing out there this weekend. Alex Bowman, Josh Bilicki, Tanner Thorson, who is the defending winner, who's made a truck start, I should say, but notably absent from the field. Past winners, including Christopher Bell and Kyle Larson there, Tyler.
Yeah, surprising those guys aren't taking a part of it. But a guy that's done really well in the Chili Bowl, and he had a stint in the Truck Series. I would love to see him get another shot. I think he's got just incredible raw talent. Is Rico Abreu. That dude, I think, is really special. And I know things didn't necessarily work out when he was in the Truck Series for a short time, but that would be a guy, David, I would love to see get another shot. I mean, that's a wheel man right there.
Yeah, man, he can wheel those sprint cars. It's amazing, you know, the talent he has. And, I've always found it intriguing to have a little dude like that getting those sprint cars. And man, don't let his height fool you, because man, he's got it going on. You know, he wins a lot of the World of Outlaws sprint car races, and he's one of the best. And it's cool to see him at the Chili Bowl again. And, I've always said, you know, somebody give him another chance in one of the NASCAR series. And, but that hadn't happened over the years. And I always thought that it would. So, you know, the Chili Bowl, y'all mentioned Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell. These guys, man, they're, you know, when you talk about the Chili Bowl, you're talking about, you know, the best of the best of any type of sprint car midget type racing, you know, and I was just talking to Cole Custer. I think it was Thursday morning. He got married. In fact, it was Thursday morning. I saw him. We were visiting, and it was kind of ironic. He said, David, I'm getting married tomorrow night. I said, you're getting married tomorrow night, you know? And, it was unbelievable. And we had a busy day Friday, and we ended up going downtown, a bunch of us, to grab something to eat late Friday night. And man, we're downtown Charlotte, and I look over and I'm looking through these windows, and there's Cole Custer getting married. I'm like, man, what a coincidence, you know? But also in my conversations with Cole Custer, we were talking about the Chili Bowl. Alex Bowman stopped by and said a couple things to us, that he was fixing to get on a plane and head over to Tulsa to run the Chili Bowl. And Cole said, man, David, how many times you run that race? I said, dude, I haven't, you know. And he said, man, I tried it one year, and he said I had no business doing, you know, trying it. But man, you know, these guys that race these sprint cars, these midget race cars, I mean, they're incredibly talented, but you know, a lot of them are Ryan Vargas' age, 22, and a lot of them are 15, a lot of them are 17, but these guys are the best of the best. And let me tell you, they don't just jump in a midget every once in a while. These guys, some of them race 4 or 5 nights a week, man.
They're just built different.
They're, you know, you're talking about the best of the best. I'd love to go and jump in a midget car, but to think that, you know, somebody's never done that, I would love to do it. But man, you know, I don't care who you are. You know, it's not, you know, I've had opportunities. People say, hey man, you want to come to Chili Bowl and drive my midget? I said, man, I would love to, but I would think that you'd want to get somebody that's done that for a living, and, you know, races midget cars for a year, because you throw like Ryan Vargas or myself into it. I mean, you know, we could do it. We'd figure it out, but you're at a huge disadvantage. You know, I can't, I'm looking at the entries. I mean, I think there's, you know, over 600 entries from all over the United States, you know, and what an event that is.
Well,
you know, it's pretty awesome.
Your youngest Vancy, you got him to race in sprint cars. Maybe that's something he races someday.
Well, absolutely, you know, but it's you know, I've been several times and it's just amazing. And to see what Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell do in that main event, and every competitor that makes the A event, the last race, the main event, there's only, I don't know if I'm wrong on this, and maybe you guys know, I think there's only 40 cars in the A main event, you know, for the Chili Bowl. And man, I'm gonna tell you what, all 40 of them are bad to the bone. You know what I mean? And you can only have one winner, but all 40 of them are bad. If you can, you know, like I said, I don't know what the entry is. It's got to be over 600. It might even be 1,000. And to make the last 40 cars for a main event, you know, you got to be bad to the bone. And there's a lot of guys that are just unbelievable talented that don't even make the race. You know what I mean? And it's always cool to see the NASCAR guys, JJ Yaley, Chris, you know, all the NASCAR guys, you know, Alex Bowman, you know, we pay attention and
Chase
watch
Briscoe.
all of them, Chase Briscoe, because man, we're cheering for them. You know what I mean? But it's a miracle if they can make the A main, because it's so tough.
Some of the notable names: Josh Bilicki, Carson Hokaver is in it, Caden Honeycutt, a legend in sprint cars, Sammy Swindell. Swindell, he's in there. I mean, Dylan Welch from NBC is going to be in it. Son of Vince Welch is going to be a part of it. Tanner Berryhill, and he's from Tulsa himself. You know, Adam Andretti is going to be involved. You know, some very notable names. Ryan, the Chili Bowl, is that something you'd be interested in the future?
Absolutely. I'd love to do the Chili Bowl. I mean, like David was speaking earlier about the snowball, but man, I am far more interested in the Chili Bowl. It's because it's way cheaper. That's the big thing. I'm all about whatever's cheap. In the Chili Bowl, it's prestigious, but I'm kind of in that same mindset as well. It's like I'd rather go run the micro race they do a few weeks prior, the Tulsa Shootout, first before I ever do the Chili Bowl, because like kind of like what Cole says, I don't think I really have much business trying to go out there and do that. I feel like it's a cheap thing, but it's still an expense, and if I don't think I'm going to be able to make it that far, so I'd rather have some experience before I do it.
Yeah. Kyle Busch's son, Brexton, ran the Tulsa Shootout a couple weeks ago. So that kid's already well on his way, it seems, as far as that goes. Dom, we'll get to our final segment here in just one moment. Today's show presented by TicketSmarter. They came aboard as primary sponsor this past year, David's 08 Ford Mustang. I want to tell you a little bit more about what they do. TicketSmarter is a national ticket resale marketplace with tickets to over 125,000 live events, including NASCAR and other forms of motorsports. Fans get tickets to every NASCAR Cup, Xfinity, and Camping World Truck Race throughout the season. For the best deals and tickets, visit TicketSmarter.com. You get your tickets today at TicketSmarter.com. All right, moving on now. Let's go ahead and get to our Ask David segment. We ask you to submit questions to us on Facebook, Twitter, and by email, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. And our first question comes from Gregory. Am I saying that right, Dominic?
Gregorio, but you're close.
Gregorio. Okay, close. Sorry. Gregorio has a question for both David and Ryan here. I'm sure you get asked the bathroom question, but let's take it a step up. How long before a race do you have to cut off liquids, and how much water do you think you intake during a race? We'll start with you, Ryan.
So first off, I don't cut off the liquids. I keep going with the liquids even up until I get in the car. But I do have a habit of, after driver intros, I will go to the porta potty probably at least 3 times. So like, and it's not a long time between that. It's like a 15-minute time period. But I will go to the porta potty like 3 or 4 times. Like they'll say the anthem and I'll sprint to the porta potty, make sure I'm good, and then go. Because I'm not gonna have an incident. And then in terms of how much liquid I drink during the race, it should be more. I have a really bad habit of not drinking it towards the midway of the season, I started making it more of a habit. And that's actually what got me through the Nashville race this year. Man, that was hot there. That one, that's what got me through that. I had a really bad habit at the start of the year. They'd fill my water cup completely, and I'd get out of the car, and then I was like, well, you could, if you wanted to put it in the fridge, we could reuse it. But I didn't drink it. I'd go the whole race without drinking it because I'm just so focused. Even under yellow, I wouldn't even think about it.
Okay, interesting. David, what about you? What's your cutoff on liquids and how much you drink it during the race?
Man, I drink a lot of water and Gatorade, and I don't think Gatorade's the best thing for you to drink, but just making sure you're hydrated, so I don't know if there's a cutoff point. For me, there's not, so I'll drink, water, Gatorade up until the time the race starts, but kind of like Ryan Vargas, like Ryan's saying, I mean, after driver intros, man, I'm standing in line at the porta potties. We got to use the restroom before we jump in the race car for 2 or 3 hours. And, people, I'm kind of like what Ryan just said. I'm so focused in the race and what's going on, the communications between the crew chief and myself, and listening to the spotter. People don't realize, you actually sweat a lot of that out. If you got to use the restroom during the race, I can't remember ever having to really use the restroom during the race because I feel like you sweat it out, you know what I mean? And, so, during the race, I don't really drink much, I don't even carry a thermos with me or a drinking bottle. If I want something to drink, then I'll ask, during a pit stop, hey, can you got a bottle of water? I'll take a couple drinks and I'll throw it out the window, So, for me, I drink a lot all day long before race. It's just your normal thing you do. But during the race, I don't drink much at all, to be honest with you.
That's interesting. I'll be honest, both of their answers was not what I was expecting.
I would have thought at least for me, I can only speak for myself. I try to cut off the liquids before we do the podcast. Now, of course, I have one of these on hand too throughout the podcast, but I have to cut off before. Otherwise, I'll text Tyler and David, hey, keep the show going. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Dom, if he was a race car driver, let's just put it this way, his fire suit would need to be dry cleaned after every race.
Or I would just be doing starting and parking. Just save everybody a little bit of time and money. There we go.
We don't have that option. And I've heard some stories over the year about different drivers, relieving their self. But man, I've been doing, this is my 25th year, and I can honestly say I've never done that ever. You know what I mean? And I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just for me. I take care of business before the race starts. And what about you, Ryan?
I've never done it. And that's also part because I half the time I had a interior guy this year, but 90% of my racing career, I've been my interior guy. So I know the pain, and not the pain of cleaning pee, but I just know the pain of doing interior. So I don't want to add more work to that. So I have not done it yet. Like you said, you're so focused on driving, and like you said, you kind of sweat it out. You don't really think about it.
Absolutely.
Well, I remember Jeff Bodine saying this. I'm curious, David, Ryan, if you guys have had the similar experience, but he would tell me where he'd be on a cool down lap and start unhooking the belts, and then it would just kind of hit him all of a sudden. The belts were kind of compressing everything, and then once you unhook everything, oh God, I need the bathroom.
Yeah, no, I've never had that. I have had it to where I'm racing, I take the checkered flag, I'm going down the back stretch, I start calming down, and that's when I realize, oh my God, I'm tired.
Right.
That's when it hits you.
Absolutely. That's never happened to me, Dom, really, to be honest with you. And look, I'm going to say something funny. If you got to do number 2, you're just screwed, dude.
You're screwed. You are screwed.
What happened, so absolutely. Yeah.
That's funny. Next question. This comes from Mitchell. Mitchell writes for Ryan. Ryan, on iRacing, what's your favorite track to race?
Ooh, I love the speedways. I love super speedway racing on iRacing because there's no repercussions for being stupid. I could just go out in real life. David and I kind of have the same strat, ride in the back and be there at the end. In iRacing, it's no, I'm here for TV time. I'm gonna lead these laps. That's what the sponsors pay the dollar for. They want that car up front.
Absolutely.
So are you going to be riding around the top then, pulling like Ross Chastain?
Yeah, exactly. I'll do some crazy stuff.
We got to get you on the iRacing sometime, David.
Yeah.
Man, yeah, I just, you know, over the years, I've had different drivers ask me to join race with them at night, but I got to be honest with you. I just, never got into the iRacing thing. I'm just so busy with other stuff. I think the iRacing is awesome. I think it just gives, just opens up our sport to people. And like Ryan was saying, how he got up in the mornings, would watch the Speed Channel, and that's how he kind of got hooked on racing. And I think with all the computer games that all the young kids, the young boys and girls have, and now you got iRacing, I really hope that, all the iRacing stuff really brings more people to our sport. You know what I mean? iRacing is a big deal. I hear, and Ryan, you can comment on that, but I didn't really know this, but iRacing, Hendricks has a team, Dale Jr. has a team. They sign drivers to the iRacing race cars. Yeah. There's a lot of money to be made in it, but for me personally, I've never really had an interest in that. I'm so busy with sponsorship, the real racing school stuff. I've just hadn't really ever had the opportunity to slow down and to iRace, but I talked to drivers today, newer guys like Ryan Vargas, and they've really learned these racetracks through iRacing, and it makes them a better race car driver. And even though that I have not really partook in that or know much about it, I do know it's a positive, great thing, a great tool.
Yeah. I mean, especially one thing that's funny to mention too is, every start from Pocono of 2020, which was my fourth start in Xfinity, all the way until the end of 2021, I hadn't practiced or qualified in an Xfinity race car.
Amazing.
Pretty much. There was only a few races where I did practice and qualify. My first ever time qualifying an Xfinity car on an intermediate track came after I had already done 10 races, I think, on an intermediate track. And we ended up qualifying 17. And I mean, I used iRacing to learn the tracks, not necessarily to learn the bumps or the field per se, but the visual. Kind of know, okay, this is kind of where I started feeding the throttle on iRacing, and you have to really understand that you're playing a simulator versus the real deal. A lot of times you have to make sure you think of that. But it helps with the visual aspect. Like, okay, there's this lifting point. This is where I lift, that's just where from the footage, I lift here, I do it on iRacing. Okay. Yep. That works. And you kind of relay that to what you do in real life. And then you mentioned all the esports stuff. I'm signed to an esports team, the Charlotte Phoenix Esports. So, and I actually will be doing a lot with them hopefully soon. I could share some more info there hopefully soon, but they sign Coke Series drivers. That's the main NASCAR series. And I personally race in professional leagues as well, where I represent the Charlotte Phoenix Esports. So it's definitely a very interesting and new market for NASCAR. And kind of talking about how I used to wake up at 5-6 a.m. to watch Speed Channel. I guarantee you there's some kids out there who are waking up at 5-6 a.m. to do iRacing nowadays. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's incredible. I was reading the other day, somebody found, I think it was Max Verstappen's iRacing account, and I guess the guy really likes running truck races at Talladega.
Yep, he does. He's a very big truck race at Talladega guy.
Oh, fascinating stuff. Guys, before we go, kind of just around the room here real quick. Ryan, what's going on with you these next few days, man?
Man, these next few days are just kind of more the same. Meetings, and sleeping, and then meetings. But it's just keeping busy, getting geared up for the season ahead. There's a lot of big changes on the horizon. I'm excited about what this year has in store. It's going to be a lot different than the years prior, but I think it's something that was very much needed, and I'm very, very excited about it.
How about you, Dominic?
Man, I'll be here in New Mexico and looking forward to spending some time with my wife and son this weekend. And yeah, life is just business as usual here in New Mexico. I'm really looking forward to just getting back home to Santa Fe here in the next few days.
How about Tyler? Tyler's going to be cheering for the Dallas Cowboys next Monday night, so I know what he's going to be doing.
Oh, I'm going to cheer for Tom Brady. No,
Me too. Go Buccaneers. Yeah.
Yeah, go Bucks. Yeah, no, I'll be watching football, covering the NFL playoffs this weekend myself. But David, you've been back and forth between here and Charlotte the last couple of weeks, right?
I have, man. Lots going on, and excited about 2023 season. And man, tomorrow, I've got to go pick up a big supply. We, getting all kinds of brake cleaner and different stuff. I'm going to go pick that up and take it to the shop. And got a meeting at Texas Motor Speedway. Have a meeting tomorrow afternoon. Thursday, I got to go to take a race car to a school, speak to a bunch of kids. Another meeting Thursday. I mean, it's just a lot going on, back to Charlotte next week. So just, a lot of stuff going on with my racing school at the Texas Motor Speedway and all the drivers and all the teams. It's our busy time of year,
Yeah.
It's stressful. There's a lot of challenges, making sure we, knowing who our partners are going to be, trying to get some new ones. But even though it's somewhat stressful and challenging, it's exciting too, and, no matter, the problem is, you got all this time up until February the 18th. And if you're ready or not, they're going to drop the green flag and start the 2023 season. So you got to be ready for all that. So a lot of cool stuff happening for all us guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As always, you can subscribe to the show. New episodes out each and every Thursday or Wednesday rather, on Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review, or don't leave us one at all. And you can follow us on social media, Facebook and Twitter at Star Podcast. Also, you can email us, davidstarpodcast@gmail.com. Ryan, before we run here, plug it away. Where can people find you and follow you and see all the stuff you're up to, man?
Yeah, everybody can follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Twitch at Ryan Vargas _23. Facebook, you'll find my page, Ryan Vargas. And then Instagram, I've been trying to change this username for years, but I can't without losing my verification. It is RTRV23. And that is short for Ryan the Rhino Vargas 23. And that was from when I was 13. But yeah, that's the best place to catch me. I'm most active on Twitter. You'll see me tweet some really just crappy jokes, and sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't, but it's a good time.
Well, man, we're excited to hear some news coming from the Vargas stables here in the next couple of days or week, and excited for you, man. I hope I know your future is going to be bright, and man, keep digging and doing what you do, because you do a great job at it. And you're a great sports person for our sport and just auto racing in general. And man, I have nothing but respect for you, because it's not easy for anybody, and nobody's ever given you anything. You work for everything you got, and I'm excited about your future, buddy. And thanks for joining us today.
I appreciate that. Thank you, and best of luck with all your stuff coming out here soon. All the business meetings. That's kind of like the theme of the off season for everybody. It's meeting. But that's how these off seasons are. They're just as crazy, if not worse, than the regular season. But very exciting times.
Yeah, yes, indeed. We'll put the checkered flag out on this episode for David Starr, Dominic Aragon, and Ryan Vargas. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks so long. It's been another edition of Let's Go Racing. We'll see you next week.